Independent thought, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Trump still hasn't spoken to President-elect Joe Biden and will skip his inauguration Wednesday in favor of a military-style send-off ceremony at Joint Base Andrews, where Trump is expecting a red carpet rollout and adoring crowd to bid him goodbye. But his second impeachment trial will still loom over the city long after he's gone from Washington.
Yeah, that's Trump. One more day and then he's done. Next up, Joe Biden. What's he up to, President-elect?
With most of the traditional morning events with the outgoing president canceled, instead Joe Biden will be going to church. And we've just learned that he's invited congressional leaders of both parties to join him. Then afterwards, it'll be right here to the Capitol. There will be no big crowds, no huge celebration, but there will be Lady Gaga. She will be singing the national anthem, and Jennifer Lopez also performing. Then, of course, right at 12:01, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the next president.
Mitch McConnell's already said he's going to go, so I'm sure people are going to want to cancel him. Cancel him! Cancel everybody! Now, don't cancel Trump. It's so funny listening to so many people. I don't mind people yelling and screaming all the time at me. I take it as this is the business I got into. I chose this business. It was always a dream of mine. But we've come to a point in our world where we've given people the opportunity to say and do things that are, there's no repercussions. Most people who say stuff would never say it to your face like that for fear of the repercussion of what may come next. But we live in this world. We do. Yeah, Trump's leaving. It's over. But people are still holding out hope that something's going to happen tomorrow, that there's some magical plan, and it isn't happening. Joe Biden's coming in. And people can't stand that. And, yesterday I did a little video, as I tend to do every day, and do some Facebook Lives and stuff like that. And I love when you guys go and share and comment. And said this, we need to start telling people the things they need to hear, not the things they want to hear. And I think that's important. I do. I think it's important that we start to tell people, hey, you know what? Here's the reality of the situation. We don't do that anymore. And it starts with, the younger generation, the millennials and stuff, where we've just all decided, hey, you know what? Facts no longer matter in anything. Everything's about feelings. Everything's about how do you feel? And we give everybody a trophy. No, you didn't win. The other team just did better than you. I mean, it was always some made up crap to make it feel like, hey, you know what? This matters more. No. Here's the reality of this. Trump lost. You can say whatever you want about it. I have no problem continuing to look into the way that things were done in some of these states. But the reality is, in some of these states, he lost by such a mass amount that it's not going to change anything. It isn't. And people need to hear this. They do. I don't like the fact that Trump is acting like a spoiled child. I don't. I don't think it's a good look. Mike Pence has been the only adult for the last several weeks. Doesn't mean I didn't like some of the stuff that Trump did. I absolutely did. All day, we'll talk about stuff. I don't want to talk about Trump anymore. I don't. After a while, it's like people either love him or hate him. There's no real, honest dissection of any of the things that he's ever done. We tried to give you that here. Real, honest dissection. He did some stuff that was good. I don't care if you're on the left and you're like, it's impossible. He couldn't have because he's a bad person. He did things that were good. He addressed things that weren't addressed. He also did some things that I wasn't thrilled with. It's what you should want. But we don't. Because now it's everybody, you pick a lane, right, in your echo chamber, and then you get into it. And you just affirm everybody else's. There's no independent thinking. And that's what's funny. My show starts out independent life. Because I am. I'm independent. Because I find that having the red and the blue, like I look at, first of all, let's just be honest about both parties. Both parties took belief systems and ideologies, or whatever you want to call them, and twisted them for their own doings. They did. Both parties have done that. Whatever fits the narrative of the day, and it's a business. And I think that you need to start looking at it like it's a business. You need to start looking like, hey, Republicans and Democrats are no different than anybody else. It's just a business. But I like to have truth, and I like independent thoughts. People are willing to go, I always say I'm an open-minded skeptic. Chad, did you hear about this? No. I go take a look. Is it real? Is it not real? Let me do my research. We don't do that anymore. Because the only thing we do is want to have our affirmation reaffirmed. I believe in this. Somebody reaffirm what I believe. And the reason I get taxed from both sides is because of that. Because I will say things that pisses off the right and people who like Trump. And I'll also say things that piss off the left and for people who hate Trump. We heard Biden's schedule because tomorrow he's going to be president. Trump's not showing up. I think that's childish. I think it's a sore look and it's childish. Absolutely do. 100%. Both sides will yell at me. And I'm good with that. Because I always feel if I'm pissing you off, it's because I've challenged a belief. And because of that, you're fighting back. And it's good to be challenged. I like being challenged. I like the fact that I have a lot of listeners that keep me on my toes. I think that's great. It's funny because people who don't like the Hannitys and the Limbaughs and stuff, they're just full of vitriol and hate. They're not interested in having an honest dialogue, and vice versa. No, I like the fact that our audience is different. Yeah, you know what, Jen? I don't think that's true. Take a look at this. And I'm always willing to say, look, you know what? I looked it up. Maybe it wasn't true. But we need to start having conversations about delivering the actual truth. What you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because me telling you that Donald Trump will be president tomorrow isn't going to make it happen. It isn't going to make it happen. And then what happens? You get pissed and angry. And it sucks. It sucks. We have a very fickle world. Case in point, Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks is going to be there tomorrow. Garth Brooks is going to perform. Garth Brooks is, people already want to cancel poor Garth. He didn't even do anything. He didn't even do anything.
Excited, nervous, all the good things, because this is history and it's an honor to get to serve.
Well, how dare you? You turned down Trump. You had other engagements. Things were going on. Last minute. This was a last minute thing because of the pandemic. Not a lot's going on. Oh, it's exactly it. He's on the other side. He's sold out to Biden.
This is kind of how I get to serve this country. Our father served as a United States Marine in the Korean War. We had brothers that served in the Air Force and the Army. This is my chance to get to serve.
It's not a political thing. It's not. It's not political. But how can it not be? He also said, I'm going to be the only Republican there. But then you saw people attack him. And it just shows you so much of where we are now in this tribalism. And this tribalism it's unfortunate. And, the big thing is with this tribalism is the fact that there is no accountability anymore for the average person to live in anonymity, the immediate accountability. You may have accountability 3 days from now if you do something out of control that could get back to your boss but the reality is 99.9% of people have no accountability. So they can say things and do things. And they do this because for all intents and purposes, they're wearing a mask. They're wearing a mask. And the mask is anonymity. Well, I want to get rid of you. I don't like you. You said something I don't like, so I want to get rid of you. The funny thing is, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, I had a person who listened to me reach out. And big proponent of Trump and all of these things and fights for Trump in every way, shape, or form, especially when it comes to him being taken off Twitter. And the hypocrisy of how he went after me. Just shows you that for as much as both sides scream about how they want freedoms and they want all these things, what they really want is their own world. and their own fiefdom and their own utopia. I have news for you. This is where we live. We're going to live together, and the majority of us are totally fine with opposing views. Unfortunately, the crazier, the louder, the more views, the more clicks you get. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. Also, hilarious party that was broken up in California over the weekend. I didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday. But it's not even so much the party. It's just the way that the guy that was on the scene, the reporter, reports it, that is just, all you need is the description. And you go, well, that guy hit it out of the park. He likes his job. MyPillow has great pillows, amazing pillows. And their mattress topper is incredible. Right now, $29.98 for the MyPillow. Now, normally, they are $69.98. It's a $40 savings. And you get a 6-day money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty. It's got the patented fill. If you want a king pillow, it's $5 extra. Plus, they got all kinds of discounts deep on the Giza Dream sheets and everything else. And this is how you go. You go to mypillow.com. There's a promo code Benson. You use that. When you do, you save big. It's that simple, right? It doesn't get any easier than that. mypillow.com, promo code Benson. When you use that, you save big. $29.98 for the original MyPillow, 10-year warranty, 6-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
We need to really understand what our supply looks like, how many doses are going to go to which state so that we can really make sure that the eligibility is on track. We don't have long lines, long waits, but we're vaccinating people in the proper queue.
Dr. Rochelle Walensky right there. The supply is huge. Like, what is the supply? And now we're hearing, okay, so we should start seeing a respite and the numbers come down in the next couple weeks because we're kind of removed from Christmas and the holidays and people hanging out and, when people caught sick and, rolling that thing out is what everybody tells you. Then from there, it's like, oh, yeah, but by the way, early spring, the new variant should really take hold in America, and it spreads 10 times faster. So we'll see an explosion of this, and people aren't getting vaccinated, which is that's a you thing. I've to say it again, whether you do or you don't, that's a you thing. I don't care if you do or you don't. But if we're going to get through this, we're going to have to make the decision. We're going to do our best to get everybody vaccinated. And then and I've always been a proponent of and this is going to be up to Biden, right, at this point, because Biden's president. As of tomorrow, he's president. Right now, he's president-elect. How many days? You want to vaccinate 100 million people from the first day you're in office. Sounds great. Some of that's going to be the supply chain. What does that look like? From there, how are we going to ensure people are going to make sure they get it or don't get it? And then what's the point where we say, all right, here's the deal. People have got it and you've had it. People have got the vaccine, fine. And there's others who don't want to. And some may be religious reasons. Some may be allergies. They just can't. But everybody else, at some point, we have to say, all right, we need to get back to living. We need to get back to doing this. And we've been talking about this. If this is endemic, which I believe it is, which means it's going to be here and could continue to be here over and over and over, and potentially until we build up some sort of immunity in mass that not only may include the continuous getting of vaccines for some people, but just people who finally get to a point where they build up such an immunity that there is really no bother to it for them, then we're going to have to learn to live with this thing, through this thing, and around this thing. That's just it. Do I find it odd that blue states are starting to freak out now? We can't live like this. People have been saying that for months. For like 9 months. And you didn't care. But you care now. Makes people go, oh, geez, there's a new guy in town. Yeah, of course. Some of that's true. But the reality is at this moment in time, you're starting to realize that even with the new guy in town, even if it was Trump, you were going to have to say the same thing because your population is pushing back. They're over it. They're over it. So I think there should be like everything else. Here's our goal. Starting June 1st, life's back to normal. Starting July 4th, we are living life as normal. If you choose not to get the vaccine, that is a you thing. If you're capable of taking it and you've had 6 months to look at it or 7 months, and you still feel like I don't need it, that's a you thing. If you've had it and you still have the antibodies and you don't get the vaccine, fine. We walk through the steps and we give people, look, this is what we're going to be doing. And whether that's a state thing, a federal thing, or a bit of both, I don't care at this point. I don't care. I think we're all frustrated. We need to get back to living our lives. And I understand a lot of this was about, hey, you know what? We want to make sure that the healthcare industry isn't crushed. Well, it's been crushed. No matter what anybody seems to do, it continues to be crushed. But so is small business. People are hurting. The kids are in a situation where they're struggling. I see it with my son on a daily basis when we talk. And it's time for us to get moving. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. When you hear this swingers thing coming up in a minute, you guys are going to laugh. And again, the party itself, just listen to the reporter who is having a great time. And he thought to himself, today's the day I'm going to be a super wordsmith. Today's the day I'm going to paint the picture for everybody to see and to hear. Plus, Biden, first 100 days. One thing I said that I was not thrilled about when it comes to Biden. We're going to talk about that. And it needs to be absolutely talked about, 100%. And a couple other fun things, because you know what? That's what we do here, kids. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Should the president-elect, the vice president-elect, lawmakers like you, should you all feel safe on Wednesday?
Yes, what we see in Washington, D.C. is overwhelming forces being deployed to make sure we have a peaceful transfer of power. I do note that the rage that is fueling the violent part of Donald Trump's base is based on the big lie that somehow this election was stolen. All Donald Trump has to do to calm tensions down is say one sentence: the election was not stolen.
He'll never do it. So next, it's never going to happen. So I don't know what you're thinking. That'll never happen, Ted Lieu. Trump will never admit that it was stolen. It goes against his belief that he was beaten. And I'm at the point where I don't think it matters if you allowed everybody to do everything and every investigation and it still came out the same way. That he would still believe it and that some of his followers would still believe it. Do I think tomorrow is going to be quiet? I do. I think for the most part, I'm not really expecting anything. I think one of the things is you get to a point where there is so much police, so much presence. Spoke yesterday with both Alex Stone and Mark Remillard, both of ABC News, and they both said the same thing, that, look, these places are locked down. You're not getting close to anything at all. So the chances of that are slim to none. The worry then became, well, could somebody in the National Guard be that? Because we saw it took place at the Capitol. And people saying things like, well, they just let us in, and they were taking pictures and those kind of things. And is that a possibility?
One Guard member was arrested in connection with the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. And the FBI has issued an alert saying that every single member will be vetted before they take part in this security.
When we look at our National Guardsmen, we vet them throughout the process, and we don't allow extremism of any type in our organization. And when we look at this as a national special security event, the inauguration, this type of vetting is standard. With all of these events, it's just based on the size here, it's gotten a lot of attention lately.
Yeah. And what went down and what the potential may be for something. I just don't believe that anything's going to happen. I think a lot of people are expecting something, and that's not what's going to happen. My belief is it's the lone wolf. It's that person that's not on the grid. It's that person who doesn't have a Facebook. It's that person you start going back and you look at people that really aren't connected. And 15, 20 years ago, it was way easier to not be connected the way that we are now. So finding people who really have zero to do with any kind of social media and leave no footprint. That's why when we go and we look back at something like Las Vegas and what took place there and the mass shooting, there, to this day, people are trying to piece together, and there is no pieces. There is no pieces along the way. So many times there are people out there who leave so many breadcrumbs, who leave so many things to follow. That guy left nothing. That's why the lone wolf would be the thing to me that you would say, and that would be on like a Thursday or a Friday and it would be one of those things where nobody's even thinking about it. And that's the kind of thing I worry about more than what may take place tomorrow. I don't think anything's going to happen. It's going to be just a run-of-the-mill, weird, kind of very sanitized, part swearing in and part Zoom meeting. And that's about it. That's about it. But we'll see. I think the state capitals probably could have more issues than what would take place in D.C. because you don't have 25,000 people that are coming to fight if that's what you think is going to happen. And I have a feeling they're going to outgun you as well. So we'll see. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. The excitement in the voice of this reporter. So there was a party over the weekend, Los Angeles, and it was a swingers party held at like a warehouse disco kind of thing, and people showed up, a couple hundred of them, to have a little bit of fun, if you will. Of course, police showed up, and you see what goes on. But it's the reporter that makes the story. It's the reporter that really just ties everything together.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The party is over. If you do not come down, you will be subject to arrest.
The party is over, and what a party this one turned out to be. Women dressed to thrill, some dressed with long fake eyelashes, some with their designer face mask, and others hardly dressed at all.
What is happening right now?
You're being detained. Every single one of you that's at this illegal party.
Not just an illegal party during the pandemic, but a swingers party as it's advertised online here at plushlife.org. The raid even catches some right in the act, looking out the window as the LA County Sheriff's Department's elite super spreader task force moves in and shuts this one down.
So very excited. He paints the picture. So we've got women in coats. We got women with fake eyelashes, people in the act. It's all happening. He's very excited. 200 people. How dare they? Well, you know what? I have a feeling if you're going to a swinger party, there is a good chance that COVID's probably the last thing on the list of things that you may be worried about.
Once we confirmed that people were at this location, we responded and detained probably close to 200 people.
Citations written up by the dozens and handed out to a much different looking crowd than the other super spreader parties Fox 11 News has been reporting on. No teenagers in t-shirts. Here it's middle-aged men in suit coats, women in fur coats, and heels so high they can barely walk.
That's how high the heels were? They could barely walk? That's how high the heels were?
All of this at a warehouse on 61st Street in South Central LA. Up on the third floor, you are now walking into this warehouse turned swingers club.
So it's a warehouse turned swingers club. He's going to give you a blow by blow of what some of the things that you may see.
Beds with condoms and towels laid out, ready to use. There are even cages and dance poles. No wonder some not too happy their fun ends sooner than they had hoped.
He's just the pictures he's painting. So there's cages and poles. There's beds and prophylactics. There is, oh my God, and then the high heels are so high, and the ladies have the giant eyelashes, and people are. It is because the pictures. Yeah, the ladies were in high heels, but it just in the mask. They totally was an eyes wide shut thing. It's an eyes wide shut, totally an eyes wide shut. And I love the fact that they're a .org too. Does that mean you're a nonprofit for all intents and purposes? Wait a minute, you guys are a nonprofit?
During a pandemic, this sheriff's task force warns it will target and shut down any illegal party.
LA County Sheriff's Department was out tonight to enforce a public health order, and we will continue to do so.
The party is over. You need to come downstairs with your hands up. If you do not, you will be subject to arrest.
That is something definitely you do not want to hear if you're at one of these underground parties. The sheriff on the loudspeaker saying you are busted. A couple hundred citations handed out at that underground party over the weekend, then everybody released.
Yeah, everybody was released. Couple hundred people. They were all out there. And that's the other thing. So you go to these things hoping you're probably going to say anonymous, especially to your boss and everybody else. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, dude, did I see you this weekend on the news? Was that you and your betrothed? What was that about?
As for that swingers website, it is advertising more swinger parties this weekend in LA County, advertising that couples are welcomed, meaning the LA County Sheriff's Department might be an unwelcome guest again, shutting it all down.
He's very excited. Oh, my goodness. You have to laugh sometimes, people. They're adults having fun. Sorry, Gavin Newsom and Mayor Yoga Pants out there, Garcetti. They're adults. Well, they shouldn't be hanging out then. You know what? At this point, you guys, everything you've tried in California has failed miserably. So people want to get their groove on, let them get their groove on. This is what happens. Not this particular, but eventually your message of all the things that we're going to try and do to solve these problems, when none of that stuff comes true, it all falls on deaf ears. And then the next thing you know, you're at an eyes wide shut party. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Again, tomorrow, Trump leaving, Biden coming. How is Trump leaving?
Trump planning a farewell ceremony for himself at Joint Base Andrews with great military fanfare. Then he'll board Air Force One for the last time and head to Mar-a-Lago, where moving trucks were spotted today. Before he goes, Trump is expected to announce about 100 pardons. But sources tell ABC News the president is not expected to pardon himself or any members of his family or any close associates.
At the end of the day, that's everybody. Are you pardoning anybody really close to you? That's it. Everybody else could be, it's just, it'll make for, everybody will blow up and make it seem like it's this amazing, like, oh, and like he's the only one that's ever used a pardon. And I don't care about that's TMZ, that's reality TV crap. That's why we're in this position that we're in, where we sit here and have a fight between the media and the right, or the right and their media. I don't care. The only thing that is, are you pardoning family members? That's, I think, what people are looking at. Are you pardoning yourself? Those are the things I think people were kind of looking at. Doesn't seem to be. Will he get a pardon? Has he spoken to Biden? Probably not. Probably not at all. Case in point, he's not even showing up. And then the other question is he going to leave the letter? So it's kind of been a tradition for a while. And when Clinton wandered into the office after George H.W. Bush, after he beat him, there was a letter there. And since then, it's kind of been something that all the presidents have done, talking about, hey, you know what? The magnitude of this office, what you're facing, you're going to times feel like you're the loneliest man on earth, and it's going to feel like everything's coming down on you, and just, this kind of what this is about. I don't think he's leaving any of that. God only knows what he's leaving. God only knows. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. I want to talk to you guys about something in a minute that I put out a question today, a poll, and we're going to touch on it, about what you would like to have if your employer offered you one of these two things. I find it to be interesting because it's broken down generationally and how the generations look at things in such different ways. Let me tell you about my friends over ExpressVPN. You need it. Everybody needs a VPN. I'm just telling you guys right now, if you're worried about your online activity being looked at and your accounts and big tech and all of that stuff using your data, this is why you need a VPN. So you want free access to social media? Of course, that's what you're going to get. Well, guess what? You get that free access and they get you. You are not the end user at all. You're the person that they're going to use to get to everybody else and sell your data. And it's valuable. So when you use ExpressVPN, you anonymize much of your online presence by hiding your IP address. That makes your activity, all the stuff you're doing, so much more difficult to trace. What's more, ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of your data to protect you from eavesdroppers on your network. And ExpressVPN app couldn't be easier. You tap one button on your phone or computer and you're protected. What are you going to do? You're going to take back your online privacy right now with the VPN I trust. ExpressVPN.com/Benson. By visiting that link, this is what you get. An extra 3 months of ExpressVPN services for free on a 1-year package. It's so inexpensive. That's ExpressVPN.com/Benson. ExpressVPN.com/Benson. Protect your data today. Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
Dolly Parton, 75. Not all of her, but that's, we just make them different now, I guess. I don't know. She's 75 years young. That's just crazy to think about. And she's still going. It's like you go and you look at Betty White, turned 99. And still going, still active, still doing stuff. You go and look at her IMDb, that's the movie database, so it tells you all the stuff that's going on. She still has stuff that she's working on. Like, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. Dolly's still out there doing stuff. Gotta love that. You do. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. 3 out of 5 Americans, so these are working Americans, would rather get an extra vacation day for a life admin task than a pay raise. So would you rather have a day off or a pay raise? Right now, 72.3% say raise. 27.7% say a day off. It's interesting because when I start breaking it down by the generations, it really starts to change. So the younger generation, and one poll conducted this, along with Trust and Will, and the generation side of things really shows a lot. Gen Z, 69%, they want a day off. 64% for millennials. And these are days off that are life admin days. 68% of baby boomers, though, want the cash, want the money, even if it's a little something. And I find that to be, I'm like, well, that's yeah, I see that. I see that here. I work with a bunch of millennials that are here. And when their day is done, their day is done. You're not getting an extra 5-6 hours a week out of them. You're not getting an extra something out of them. You just, it's like to even ask them for, okay, could you stay an extra 5 minutes? I mean, it's a done deal. And in today's world, the perfect example is you go and you look at how they cater to millennials, and they've done this for a very long time in Silicon Valley. The tech industry is famous for people turning down money other places because this place over here has a cafeteria and they have one of those meditation pods and they give you Friday afternoons off and they have great social justice things that you can go work on. So you may not get a day off or more pay in the way that you want, but you may get a day to go work on something. I mean, they do a lot of those things. That's to them is more important. An older generation, they understand it's a different world and a value for money. Money to them it's not that it's important, but they recognize what that money does for them in their future. For me, if you're saying an extra, just one day, I mean, it's like 1 day a month. I got no problem with 1 day a month. Over, how much am I getting? What's my daily rate? But I think a lot of people would like to have an extra day a month. I know a lot of people love the 4-day work weeks where you get 10 hours a day and you get 3 days off. And it shows, too, because after a while, working, you get to a point where they call decision fatigue. And this is where people start to make really bad decisions, not based on, all the facts. And it's based on the fact that they've made so many decisions. At some point, it becomes fatiguing and they're just starting to make decisions to make decisions. Interesting. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Check out the poll. Take it over there on Twitter at Chad Benson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Trump still hasn't spoken to President-elect Joe Biden and will skip his inauguration Wednesday in favor of a military-style send-off ceremony at Joint Base Andrews, where Trump is expecting a red carpet rollout and adoring crowd to bid him goodbye. But his second impeachment trial will still loom over the city long after he's gone from Washington.
He's not going to be there. Not a shocker. 152 years. Let's play a little history. So you had Andrew Johnson, vice president to Abraham Lincoln. Southern Democrat. Lincoln, reached over the aisle, if you will, brought him on. He was assassinated. Johnson takes over. And he was kind of the accidental president. Just an odd cat. Impeached, didn't show up. He and Grant had a huge falling out, hated the establishment and all that went with it. So it was, there's a lot of that is similar. I mean, if you think about this, right? Skipped his successor's inauguration after he, finished a single term and painted himself as a persecuted hero. Sounds kind of familiar. Do I think Trump should go? No, I think Trump would be more of a spectacle. I do. Do I think it's childish? Yeah. And I don't think even if he wanted to go based on all that's happened over the last several weeks, that would even be a possibility. I think in his heart of hearts, he will never admit he lost. That's something that Trump doesn't do. Follow history of who Trump is. That is something he would never do. He would never admit he lost. And now here we are. Tomorrow we got a new president. And to me, and I'm going to say this, and I want everybody to listen, because this is what I find that people tend to do. We're not even at the point now where we have selective hearing. Like, our confirmation bias in everything is so ridiculous. It is. You could say it's like my mom. You bring home like all A's and a B, and you're going to get hammered for the B. Not me. If I brought home a B, she'd be like, "Oh my God, did you cheat?" But that's kind of, everybody's got a parent like that. Everybody knows somebody like that. That no matter, you could say 99 great things, but somebody's going to pick out one thing that you didn't say, and they're going to hyper focus on that. And that's the world we live in now. It is all or nothing on both sides of the aisle. It's do as I say, It's believe what I believe, or you and I are enemies. And that's the dumbest thing in the world. It is. You know, for 4 years, I have criticized Trump when I need to criticize him, because we should. And I've also praised him on a lot of things. But people don't hear that. People don't hear that part, because what they heard was, oh, you criticized the person that I believe is Yahweh, that I believe is some sort of, you know, whatever it is. I mean, just that to me is where we are. I'm going to criticize Biden, but I'm also going to recognize this. Tomorrow, Joe Biden's president of the United States. I do not want him to fail. There will be tons of stuff that I will disagree with, and we're going to get into a lot of those things. And there will be some stuff that I absolutely, I thought, you know what, I agree. You know, the world lives in a much grayer place than the black and white that everybody really wants to believe. Like the other day, I was talking to my uncle last night about, you know, Rasmussen poll has Trump at this level. The Pew poll has him down here at 29%, his lowest. Well, where's the reality? Chances are the reality is somewhere in the middle. Chances are the reality is he's probably not at 46% and he's probably not at 29%. Could he be at 35%? It's possible. That's more likely the truth. But we don't want it. We don't want truth anymore. We don't want any of that stuff. We want our truth. And we only want to be told the things that we want to hear. We want affirmation, not information. So I will say this, and I'll have to say it again, and people will get mad at me, and they'll talk, you know, about how whatever, just how we need to cancel you, which is always a laugh. Tomorrow, Biden will be president. And Kamala Harris will be vice president. And I don't want them to fail. But when they do things that I think are ridiculous, overreach, or stupid, damn Skippy, I'm going to criticize the hell out of it. And if they do something good, I don't want to live in a world where you can't say, oh, that was pretty good. You can't credit the other side. What is that about? That is insane. But that's where we are. That's where we have landed. We've landed in a world where, how dare you even for a second think about saying something somewhat complimentary about somebody who maybe did something you thought was okay, but based on that, well, you're evil. And you should be ostracized. Hence the reason why I don't pick political parties. I'm independent across everything. I'll give you my opinion on something, ask it. But if you want me to give you a blanket opinion on every single thing, right or left, that's nuts. It truly is. It truly, truly is. So we shall see what takes place. But we live in a world right now of, just like we have for the last 4 years, of denial from one side. And in many cases, smuggery on the other. And unfortunately, too many of the extremes on both sides will have a voice to stir up crap, and that's not good. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. So what is Biden's schedule? What's that look like? Traveling today? How does that break down? Normally there's things that you do with the president and the incoming president. So the outgoing and incoming normally have a meeting. You remember 4 years ago, Melania, the light blue dress, President Obama, First Lady Michelle, all of those things, and Trump. And normally you have that. Different this time.
With most of the traditional morning events with the outgoing president canceled, instead Joe Biden will be going to church. And we've just learned that he's invited congressional leaders of both parties to join him. Then afterwards, it'll be right here to the Capitol. There will be no big crowds, no huge celebration, but there will be Lady Gaga. She will be singing the national anthem, and Jennifer Lopez also performing. Then, of course, right at 12:01, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the next president.
And we move on. Oh, Chad, he's going to turn our nation into a socialist, communist paradise. Where do you get that? I'm just curious. Like, where do you get that? Oh, he is. Okay. No, explain to me. Break it down to me how this is happening. How this is going to happen. I'm curious. Break it down to me from point A to point B. So all of us are going to be giving up all of our rights, and we're going to be giving up all of our businesses. And even Democrats, of which 80% of them don't live in the extremes, are going to be totally okay with that. You really think that? You believe that? I'm just curious. You believe that that's the thing that's going to happen? Oh, yeah, Chad, it's totally going to happen. You have no idea. It's totally, this is all happening. It's not. It's not happening. Now, are there going to be some stuff that's going to be different? Absolutely. Are there going to be some bills and some laws that they're going to try to get through and some things that they're going to want to do that are going to be stuff I don't agree with? Yeah. But the first thing he's got to do is take on the coronavirus. He's got to figure this thing out. He's got to figure out how we get through this at this moment in time. And he also has to find out what it looks like. Because I think we're not going to have a real understanding of what this thing looks like as far as the vaccinations, the opportunities for vaccinations, what's been left out there, what was told and wasn't told, or maybe, just quite maybe, and we've heard this, it happens every single time we have a new president coming in. They promise you a lot of things that they're going to do, but they don't really know the whole story. Then they get in there and find out, I can't do those things. The reality is it's just not possible. He may get in there and say, you know what, man, Trump really wasn't that far off on this stuff. There's not so much. Or he may get in there and say, look, this dude was, what was he thinking? I think the latter will probably happen. But we've got to get to the point where we figure out how we get through this thing faster so we can put people back to work. We can get them less dependent on what the government wants to hand them because the local governments have told them they can't work and shut their businesses down so we can steady ourselves and get moving. That needs to be the number one thing. Other things will go on. There will be an impeachment. We're going to talk about what he'd like to do in the first 100 days, one of which I'm already coming out, and I've been saying it since the debates. This is a no-go and why I would never vote for him. One thing at a time that we have to do, and the first one is getting Americans back to work and getting us through this nightmare that has been COVID. That should be the number one thing. The number one thing. We have a chance to sort ourselves out and start giving people choices, calculated choices about who should or shouldn't get the shot, who has access to the shot, giving people choices, but also giving everybody a timeline. July 4th, July 1st, June 1st, we are back to living our lives. And if you don't like it, and you don't want this, and sorry, we're not going to bend over anymore for you. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Home title lock. Someone can steal your title, the deed to your home, and what they can do with it, whatever they want at that point. Because as far as the courts and everybody's concerned, guess what? It's not your house anymore. Deborah said, I couldn't believe we were being evicted from our own home that we did not sell. Story goes on over and over again. That's why you need home title lock. All it takes is somebody to look up your address, have your name, and they can do everything online or even go down there, use a fake notary, get everything sorted out as if you sold them the house, and then they can do whatever they want. And what do? Some of them may hold it for ransom. Others, they start taking out tons of loans. And those loans come in, and you don't know about it. The next thing you know, you're stuck with a payment. You may get evicted. Frustrating. Absolutely. That's where Home Title Lock comes in there. They're there to help. They're there to make sure that you know if somebody tries to mess with your title, that you're alerted. On top of that, should somebody happen to get through, guess what? Home Title Lock's there to help you with the legal aspect, up to $250,000 to fight it. Protect your home now with Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com. Register your address. See if you've been a victim. And use code radio for 30 free days of protection to help you get through that. Check it out. It is simple and is easy. It's code radio at HometitleLock.com. Code radio, HometitleLock.com. Chad Benson Show.
I'm so tired. I'm exhausted.
The
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? All right, let's take a look at what is trending. Start first with Google. Why? Because what I like about Google is and a lot of different things trends. But the thing about Google is it gives you real-time searches of things that are going on. So we always think that all that goes on is politics. And no. New York's general manager. So the Mets general manager has been the general manager for a little over a month, has been fired for sending explicit texts and images to a female reporter. His name is Jared Porter, and this is the way I look. He's kind of an up-and-comer, right? Started here in Arizona. He's kind of like an intern, and then kind of worked his way up through all the channels that you do, and then went to work for the Cubs, and that's when this started in 2016, and eventually he just became the general manager of the Mets, and he's been let go because this came out. And what he did was absolutely abhorrent. Don't get me wrong, but it goes back to that question, is like, why now? Why today? Or last week? This happened in 2016. Did you not tell anybody else? Was this always hanging out here? And he shouldn't, based on this. I mean, it is absolutely, the Mets had no choice. But it is a fair question to go, why today? Why today? Some of the other things that are trending. Cricket. That's right, I said cricket. Cricket is trending. How is cricket trending? Because it's like one of the biggest sports in the world. India and Australia played today. India won. And because of that, you'd be surprised by how many people pay attention to cricket, even over here. It's nuts, but it's true. They won by 3 wickets, by the way. So that's pretty good. Just let you guys, if you guys have no idea what cricket is, I'll explain it to you one day. It's just an interesting game. One days are much better than a test match, but this was, and those things take forever. Forever. National Popcorn Day. Who doesn't like good popcorn? I may have some later. I love me some popcorn. Dolly Parton turned 75. Big time for her. 75 and still going. Absolutely still rolling. Colin Kaepernick also, because they're equating, this guy protest on a football field, and these people went into the Capitol, and everybody's always trying to, how can we make this come together? And multiculturalism is trending. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said censorship, wokeness, political correctness, it's all points in one direction. Authoritarianism cloaked in a moral righteousness. And you know what? I don't agree a lot with what Pompeo says. That's absolutely something that is spot on. I keep telling you, and I will continue to tell you, the battle that needs to take place is not the battle of politics, the way that people think. It's the multiculturalism and the way that things are going to set itself up. The wokeness, the way that schools are set up, those are things where the fight needs to happen. Where we fight against things like that, where saying the wrong thing, somebody perceives something to be the wrong way, something you did 5 years ago that seemed to be okay is today now cancelable. This kind of insanity is the place where the fight has to go. Where we return to, yes, being decent to one another, but also learning how to live with some things. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's the fact that he's off Twitter. And guess what? It's as if Donald Trump doesn't exist anymore when he's not on Twitter.
Yeah.
It changes the whole dynamic. So I would imagine that what he's going to be looking for is what he will want is an opportunity to put himself back in front of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he feels like he doesn't exist. And he got canceled. I don't agree with canceling. I've never agreed with it. What makes me laugh is how so many people will scream about Trump being canceled. Right? So they scream about Trump being canceled, and then they attack me and want me canceled. And I'm like, wait, why? Well, because you said something I didn't like. And because of that, I don't like what you had to say, so I don't want to hear what you have to say. Well, it's simple. Change the channel. There you go. Problem solved. Person wrote, hoping your crap falls. I think he meant fails. You are pro-Biden and his evil ways. Like, what's his evil ways? Like, is there something I don't know about Biden being evil? I will have you taken off 25 radio stations by the end of the month. Very specific. Very specific. I'm like, so hold on a second. You want to cancel me because you disagree with the fact that I don't hate Biden. Somehow you have some sort of moral authority that your disdain and hatefulness for Biden and his evil, whatever that evil is better than other people's hate towards the president, which is also stupid. Because one side of the aisle believes that they have some sort of moral standing when it comes to the way that they look at conservatives. And that somehow they're just, well, hey, you know what? It's good, right? Like, my disdain is a healthy disdain. My disdain is, my hatred for the president and for his supporters is good because it's moral. And people think and it's done with feelings. That's the dumbest thing in the world. But the right does the same thing. I get these every day. Why? Because I don't hate Biden. You didn't talk about the Hunter Biden laptop. No, I never said it was a non-story. But at the same time, I think when we're going through a pandemic and people are trying to feed their family and you've got people waiting day in line to get food to feed their family, I think there are things out there that people are wanting to pay more attention to. Well, and you don't talk about Biden and all of his evil. What's all of his evil? That's just it. I mean, what's the evil? Maybe I'm missing something here. I mean, I don't think the guy's evil. Well, the progressives are going to do what? You forget that most of the country is center right, center left. Not extreme left or extreme right. They just happen to have the pulpit more often than not because they make for good headlines. But most everybody just kind of flounders in the middle, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And that's the reality of it. And because of that, to think that somehow we're going to become some communist socialist nation, that every single body's going to have to turn over all of their property to the government, all of their business. Well, Chad, they're doing it now in some places. You know, here's the thing about being shut down. When it comes to health, they're given a wide berth. Don't like it. But not every state's doing that. And most places partially open, if not totally open. It pisses us all off. But I'm still waiting for the evil. Is he cannibal? Is he part of the satanic cannibal pedophile cabal? Is that what he's a part of? Is that what I'm missing? I don't know. But it's the same thing. I said something that you didn't want to hear. So automatically, while you're defending Trump for being taken off Twitter and how evil that is, you want me taken off because you didn't like something I say. There's no hypocrisy there. There's none. Oh, wait, there is. This goes back to what we need to learn to do in this. We should almost have classes. Somebody said something I didn't like on television. Change the channel. Somebody said something I didn't agree with on Twitter. Scroll down. Those are things that we need to start learning how to do. When your first thought is, I'd just rather get rid of that person's speech, that's scary. But that's where we are. We're in this place now where the first thing I think people want to do is silence the other side. And both sides tend to pretend like they don't want to do that. But the reality is, it feels like both sides kind of tend to want to do that. And the funny thing is, the right rarely wants to do it to the left. The right, more often than not, wants to do it to the right or the people they think should agree with them because they don't agree hard enough. That is the dumbest thing in the world. It is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Biden will be sworn in. Heads on into the office. Got to get to work.
Biden expected to sign roughly a dozen executive orders, undoing some of Donald Trump's most controversial moves. He will immediately rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, reportedly cancel the Keystone Pipeline, and will reverse the so-called Muslim travel ban, and take the first step in his fight against COVID, mandating masks on federal lands and extending the pause of student loan payments.
Student loans, okay. Paris climate. That's interesting. We've actually done somewhat okay-ish comparatively. But it's another one of those feel-good things, because that's what we do now, is the feel-good things. So it feels good to be in there. It feels like we should be in there. What about China? I'm looking at China. China's a huge thing. From what I'm hearing, from what people are saying, my friends over at Bloomberg and other places, that he has got no real want to do anything at this moment with China. As far as easing up stuff, I think China thinks they're going to get a little bit easier with him. And I think a lot of people out there also feel like, oh, well, because of his son Biden and all this stuff, Hunter, that somehow this is going to happen overnight. No, I think he's going to take a real step back. And one of the other things is one of the people that's going to be working with him on trade, she speaks Mandarin. And she is all about clamping down on China, especially when it comes to what China has done with trade, with intellectual property, and also with freedoms and democracy in places like Hong Kong. So it'll be interesting. I don't think it's going to be an overnight thing. The Keystone Pipeline's been in litigation forever. That was probably never going to happen. But again, makes people feel good. Makes people feel good. And so much of what we do is all about the feel. Right? I read an article about the social justice world where millennials really aren't as woke as they say they are. And they did this huge study. And it was very interesting because so much of what goes on is about the look, right? Like, how do I look doing this? Do I look like a person who cares? Do I look like a person who's got empathy? Do I look like a person who would be against this or that? Not whether or not you believe this or that. Do I look like a person who would be against this or that? And that is exactly what happens. You know, a lot of these people you see in the woke world, and it's funny because I have friends who are quote unquote woke, and I'm like, you ain't woke, dude. Behind the closed doors, we're hanging out and you're BSing. You ain't woke. But it's not. It's about the appearance. Do I appear to be woke? Do I appear to be this? Do I appear to be that? How does this look on my Instagram? I'm fighting for climate change. Good. Now that I'm fighting for climate change, you know, that's great. Everybody thinks I'm a good person. So I always tell everybody, actions matter in so many ways. Actions truly matter. So we'll see what actions come about. I know a lot of people are worried about the progressiveness and where they think Biden's going to take the presidency. There's going to be some battles there. Absolutely. As there should be with anybody. And executive orders that Trump used will be used by Biden. And if Biden lost in 4 years and a Republican came in, he would probably or she would probably undo a lot of those, because if you need to live by the pen, you can also die by the pen.
I believe very strongly in bipartisanship. I want to see Joe Biden do what is necessary, try to get legislation done in a bipartisan way, try to find common ground and help bring this country back together. However, I have said to Joe Biden that I do feel that when he lay out his agenda and invite participation from the other side, if they're going to be recalcitrant, if they're going to throw up roadblocks, use your executive authority if they refuse to cooperate.
James Clyburn there, probably the person that really pushed him through all of the primaries and jump-started what seemed to be something that was on life support. So, yeah, he's going to use some executive orders. And some of those you had to expect. Others, we'll see what that looks like. And some of this stuff is just about looks more than anything else. And some of them are going to be challenged in court, much like Trump's was. This is where we are in the stalemate when it comes to politics, and the battle's going to be there. And supposedly Schumer and McConnell have reached some sort of agreement about the sharing of power in the Senate. So I don't think it's going to be a free-for-all that people think that they're going to get handed everything they want or take everything. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, he's the president. You can like him. You can have a disdain for him. All I ask, and as I ask myself as well sometimes, just, you know what? Be open-minded. Be fair. Be fair. Judge on the actions and not the words. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Raycons, best earbuds around. I use my Raycons when I'm working out. I use my Raycons when I'm just, sometimes I'll be just editing and I've got a lot of stuff to do and I'm sitting there and I love having my Raycons on. It's because even though I've got speakers and all of this stuff in these booths that I work in, it's just, to me, it's just a better sound quality and a fit and the comfort level. I love it. Absolutely. Seamless Bluetooth pairing, whether it is to my phone or to my laptops or whatever it is that I'm using. It's incredible. 6 hours of talk time and that noise isolating fit. When I'm making, calls and video conference chats, you never see wires. You never see stems because there is none. They hear me. I hear them. What are you waiting for? Something like this normally costs $200-$300, well under $100. And I'm going to save you more. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad to save big. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Save an extra 15%. Buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
You've made it this far. Bravo.
The Crown's getting lots of love from the Critics' Choice Awards, a leading 6 nominations for the Netflix series about the English royals, including Best Drama Series, and nods in all the major acting categories.
I don't think we want to annoy our shareholders.
The crime drama Ozark, also on Netflix, also scored 6 nominations, including those same categories. The 26th Annual Critics' Choice Awards air Sunday, March 7th on the CW.
This is all about you.
What's interesting is, the Oscars and what's going to take place in the next couple of years is just, there's, no Oscar movies that are out there. None. Like, really, because nobody's releasing anything. And it'll be curious to see how the movie industry makes its way back, because I don't think they're taking the hit they thought they were going to take. I don't think that the industry itself from because remember, the movie theater companies are separate from the movie industry company. So that'll be. I've always thought, man, if I'm AMC or if I'm Regency or any of these other ones, I'm like, man, why aren't I producing movies? Release it inside of my own theaters. Keep it all for myself. I've got a platform, and maybe that's something, you've heard tossed around, but it's at this point, you do wonder, right? Like, what's the, I don't even know. Like, I think The Marksman comes out this week, but I don't know how many theaters. I mean, you never know how many theaters you're going to be in. Is it going to be 100, 500? I do miss movies, man. That's the one thing I miss. Big time. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. So today, Biden's already having confirmation hearings across all, the people that he has nominated. Janet Yellen, the Fed chair. She is up first. And then, of course, you've got, just the things that are going on in the next 24 plus hours as Biden heads to his inauguration and then into his first day of work, which is going to be probably a lot of executive orders, a lot of photo ops, a lot of Zoom. People are like, they've got to be protecting for a reason because of they realize he's not a true president. Like, that's where that goes. Like, people think that. I'm like, did you not see what took place? Were you not aware? Just wondered. I mean, because they're still getting, tips.
The security measures coming as ABC News has obtained a new law enforcement bulletin raising the specter that right-wing extremists like QAnon and lone wolf attackers might try to pose as law enforcement and military to infiltrate security. All this as the FBI targets nearly 300 suspects who stormed the Capitol, combing through 200,000 videos and photographs, much of it tips from the public.
Yeah, so that those kids that turned in their dad went there. I don't know if you guys saw this, and he was a part of it. And he came home and he basically told the kids, if you tell on me, if you guys even say anything to anybody, I'll kill you. And I'm like, I don't tell on him. I think probably not the first time he's done something like that or said something like that. Lost the plot. This is what happens when you get that deep. I wonder, how do you get that deep into something like that? But I do not think for a moment anything's going to happen tomorrow. I think tomorrow's going to be quiet because I think everybody's expecting something. And if the whole thing is for it to be a surprise, whatever happens, whenever it happens, it's going to come at a different time. Could be wrong, but I hope I'm right. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Got a poll question up. Would you rather have an extra day off or more money if your employer offered it to you? Take it at Chad Benson Show. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Should the president-elect, the vice president-elect, lawmakers like you, should you all feel safe on Wednesday?
Yes, what we see in Washington, D.C. is overwhelming forces being deployed to make sure we have a peaceful transfer of power. I do note that the rage that is fueling the violent part of Donald Trump's base is based on the big lie that somehow this election was stolen. All Donald Trump has to do to calm tensions down is say one sentence: the election was not stolen.
Ted Lieu. Trump will never do that. He'll never admit defeat. Just never going to happen. For all the talk of Trump being an instigator, there's no doubt, especially over the last 60 plus days, he has played a huge, huge part into it. So much of it that's being overlooked is the influence of QAnon. The influence of people that are deep into this culture. And I think that's what it is. Now it's becoming, it's a culture. It used to be like we were talking yesterday. I was talking to my buddy. I'm like, is there an acceptable conspiracy theory? I mean, if the earth is flat, I thought was fine. I don't see the harm in that. If you believe the earth is flat, it's not like, what are you going to do? It's like, look, if you prove the earth is flat, then, I mean, I don't believe it, but I can't, I've seen the pictures, so I'm going to go with I don't believe it. But if you do, I don't find the harm in that. I don't think anybody's like, nobody's storming the castle to change the globes, right? And to get rid of that globe. Nobody's doing that. The aliens, right? Like it was, I can't prove they're not real. And then again, at the same time, I can't prove they are. I would assume, based on how big our, space is, if you will, and how many galaxies and planets are out there, that in some way, shape, or form, there is some sort of other life. But I can't prove it, but I can't not prove it. Like, Bigfoot and ghost just like, is there something that is acceptable? The Kennedy thing, we touched on it yesterday. I can't prove that they are or aren't. Who killed and who didn't? Jimmy Hoffa, like stuff. Those things are like, I can't not prove it, but I can't. But we used to have these debates. But then somewhere along the line, it turned into what it became. That Trump was this great rescuer. And because of this great rescue, that he was going to essentially get rid of all of these evil people who are part of this cabal that are, pedophiles and cannibals and all this stuff. And, and usually what ends up happening with like a lot of things. I mean, it used to be back in the day, legends. You'd hear a legend about something and it would be told from, and over that time, a kernel of truth or something that did happen-ish grows into something that is, and then it becomes that thing. But I just wonder how people get to that point. Get to the point where they're so deeply involved in something. So deeply involved in such a way that nothing else matters. And I've talked to a lot of people that are, I don't say some QAnon people. We've talked to some of them and I've chatted with them and they'll send me stuff on a daily basis. And, and even when you disprove any of it, they don't care. They're on to their next, whatever it is. And it's like one of those things where even a broken clock's right twice a day. So, if you get one grain of truth, that continues to support the cause. But it's also the way in which people get sucked into these things. And it becomes their entire life. And it's interesting. And it's definitely, to me, it's also a study in human beings. It really is. This is something that somebody said the other day at the Capitol. And understand a lot of time, whether it's a cult or a gang or some of these things, how people go from point A to point B.
I believe it's the Great Awakening, and the reason I call it the Great Awakening is because I believe that white people are now starting to understand what black people feel like in America. It's not about the violence, it's not about any of that. It's about the optics of people stereotyping black people as criminals all the time. Now white people are all being called terrorists because they support, they're Republicans or they support President Trump. So now I'm experiencing, because I'm being called a terrorist, and I'm not a terrorist, because I wear a cowboy hat. And it's like, we are all getting so hyperbolic. But now, white people understand what it feels like to be misjudged by the color of their skin, by the way they look, and who they support.
Is some of that true? Yeah, I think for a lot of these people, they felt ostracized. And so they go to a place where they found people who are like-minded. And because of their like-minded, now some of that is based on race. That's the reality. Some of that stuff is based on white nationalism and a lot of other stuff that I find abhorrent. But a lot of what it is are people that are searching for something and they find the echo chamber that fits them. And inside of there, they get affirmation. And because of that affirmation, they continue to push on. And then they get involved into such a way that they become part of whatever it is that they're doing. I understand the whole, it's a great awakening, and I understand what he's trying to say. And we're just starting to get that, this is the way black people feel. And I've said it over and over again. So many of those people that were protesting. I'm not talking about the rioters in the summer. Those rioters are a-holes. Some of them are killers, as we saw, and they're arsonists, and they should be prosecuted. And we can go over that over and over. You always have to preface stuff nowadays because you feel like, well, if you don't, somebody's going to come say something. But that's the reality of it. But so many of those people that were out there who are there just to protest feel like, hey, I'm not being heard. I'm frustrated, and I'm not being heard. I'm frustrated, and I'm not being heard. A lot of people that are out there in these crazy right-wing groups and stuff, they're a lot like that. They're ostracized. They feel like they're not being heard. And because of that, they found a group that will listen to them. And away they go. They do the same thing with gangs, right? You look at a street gang. What is it? Rarely you find a kid that's like, oh yeah, I grew up with mom and dad. My life was really good, but I decided, hey, I wanted to be a Blood or a Crip or a whatever. No. It's like they felt like they had nothing. They're kind of ostracized. They gave them something. And with that, they felt like they had some power. And so much of this is what it's like. People, I saw something today where they were talking to this guy about, and it is cult-like in some ways. It is. There's a certain sense of a cultish feel to some of these things. And I'm not even talking about Trumpism. I'm not talking about the QAnon in a lot of ways. I think if you want to see who's the biggest influence for all this, so much of it is QAnon. And they look with their confirmation bias to find things that they think, well, that kind of mimics what they were saying in here, so Trump must be onto it as well. But there is a sense of that. But a lot of it is just that they feel like they have got no power. And they feel like in a group like this, they have power. You equate a lot of it to like Jim Jones, and I've talked a bit about that. Think about Jim Jones is those people were leaving because they thought they were being sold a bill of goods by a salesman and somebody who was evil. And he wasn't giving them power. He was trying to offer them utopia. Where with Trump and a lot of the QAnon people, and this is not a huge, this is not like 75 million people voted for all these people are like, that's a bunch of crap. But I think for a lot of it, he gave them the opportunity to have a little bit of power in the sense that he would look at people who they think we suck. They think we're stupid. They think we drag our knuckles. They think that we date our sisters and we can't read, and that's the way we feel. And because of that, he gave them a certain amount of power, being the whooping stick, looking at them and telling them to kiss his ass. So when I saw a thing today when they were talking cult-like thing and how do you deprogram, and I've heard AOC talk about it, and here's Katie Couric.
It's really bizarre, isn't it, when you think about how AWOL so many of these members of Congress have gotten. But I also think some of them are believing the garbage that they are being fed 24/7 on the internet by their constituents, bought into this big lie. And the question is, how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
And I think it's bigger than that. It's so much of this was Q before Trump ever arrived, and they felt like Trump was sent and he was going to give them some sort of power, like they were on the inside. It's also part of feeling like you're on the inside of something. But it felt like it gave him, some people some form of power-ish when they didn't have it. And so much of that is this power dynamic that everybody feels like they are, this is my voice or that's my voice. And it's an interesting study. But even when Trump's gone, Q is still around. It'll prop up somewhere else, and it'll get into chat rooms, and it'll go to places, and these things aren't going anywhere. And so much of it, again, all you need is a kernel of truth and one thing out of 1,000 to be kind of right, and it plants a seed. It does. And then when you find that right group who feels disenfranchised, who feels like nobody listens to them, who feels like that the world's picking on them, it takes root. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. And by the way, I don't agree with Katie Couric on most of these politicians. They don't buy it. Trump was a way to raise their profile. Case in point, Andy Biggs, who people are saying he was part of what took place at the Capitol a couple weeks ago, that he was deep embedded with a lot of these people. And I don't know if that's true or not. They're investigating across all boards, Paul Gosar and Mo Brooks and several others. But I do know this. I've known Andy for a while. And he is a staunch Republican. And he's tough on the border. He has some questions. Does he go overboard? Yes, because that's what sells. But to show you, about 7 months ago, Andy had like 13,000 followers on Twitter. He's got 250,000 heading towards 300,000. Good or bad, his profile was raised. May come back to bite him in the butt, but for a lot of people, the Matt Getzes of the world and a lot of other people, raising the profile, regardless of what they're talking about, matters in a lot of ways. And it shows you the power dynamics that even people in politics crave even more power or more notoriety. Car Shield. Love it. Have it. So I got 2 cars. My older car was like, you got 2 cars? Like, yeah, no, settle down if you think I'm a big baller. I am anything but. It's an older car that has a lot of miles on it. And it's not old in the sense that it's not like the 70s or whatever, but it's old enough and has enough miles on it that I can't even get any of the modern electronics on there. Like, that's just, because I travel so much and I'm in places in the middle of nowhere where I get no radio reception. I got satellite radio. They couldn't even put it in the dashboard. I get one of those little things. So I got Car Shield to protect me when it comes to my engine and transmission. My newer car, I've got right now a warranty for the engine and the drivetrain, but nothing for the electronics. And you come to find out that, hey, if you had to change a sensor, it's like $1,500. They got to take off the entire dashboard to get to some of this stuff. That's where I got Car Shield. Car Shield gives you 24/7 roadside assistance, right? So that's great. You break down, they're there for you. You take it to the place that you want to take it to, regardless of where you are in the country, by the way. And they get it fixed. So you can take it to the dealership, wherever. And you get a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. That's the beauty of Car Shield. Plans start as low as $99 a month. Protect yourself. Do what I did. Drive with confidence. And protect your car and your wallet. Call Car Shield, 800-665-2157. Mention code Benson, saves you 10%. Or go to carshield.com, carshield.com. Use that code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Welcome to Chad. No, not the country. The institution. The Chad Benson Show.
I've never been to Chad. I should go. When I was in England and I was doing my show over there, we used to call the embassy every night and ask if I had any messages. Like, Chad? Yeah, it's Chad. Have any messages? Just curious. No? Okay. I'll call you tomorrow. Oh. Yeah, it's just... Chad's an interesting place. It is. It's an interesting place. Very interesting. I've not been there. Maybe I should take a trip. See what it's all about. See what's going on in Chad. Look, it's Chad in Chad. It's Chad squared. Oh, we could do all kinds of fun things there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. I asked a question earlier, which I find to be very interesting, which is 3 out of 5 Americans would rather get an extra vacation day for life admin task than a pay raise. What would you like to have? If it's one day, not really bothered. But if it's a 1 day a month, I think that's more palatable. I think people might look at something like, yeah, I'd take it, or a half day, or and I think with employers right now, a lot of them, it's about luring, and that's what you do. Like, okay, you know what? When you go in for negotiations, sometimes in life you're not going to get what you want, but maybe there are other things that you didn't know that will make up for it. But the millennials and the Gen Z would rather have the life admin day than the baby boomers. And it's very much really broken down, and you see the split when it comes to that. It's kind of 50-50 for the Gen Xers, which is us. We're the forgotten. Let's be real. The Gen Xers are the completely forgotten generation. Nobody really pays any attention to us. Millennials are the biggest. Gen Z gets a lot of focus. The baby boomers are out there. You got the greatest generation in the middle. You got the, the sandwich. You got the Gen Z. It's Gen Xers. And we're like, nobody really cares. But you should, because we talk to both sides, the young and the old. We remember what it's like to use a payphone and to mail a letter. And we also invented much of what you play with on the internet and the internet itself. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program, take a poll. Right now, 70% say they'd rather have a raise. 30% say day off. What say you? What say you? Tweet at us, text the program, Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The most important briefcase in the world, carried by the military and never far from the President of the United States. It's often called the nuclear football. The case holds the highly classified equipment and authorities needed for a president to order the military to launch a nuclear weapon. On this inauguration day, with President Trump planning to depart Washington early and not attend the swearing-in of Joe Biden, there will be 2 nuclear footballs and the challenge of ensuring it goes smoothly. One for Joe Biden in Washington, D.C., the minute he becomes president. One that will accompany President Trump to Florida until he no longer has power and his nuclear authorities are deactivated.
So that's what takes place tomorrow. That's how succinct it's going to be when Biden becomes president of the United States and Donald Trump becomes former president of the United States. So they have 2 nuclear footballs. One will be in the air, landing, will be in Florida, will be operational. The other one will be around Biden and not operational. And the minute he says, "So help me God," flops. Precise. Interesting. I always find stuff like that interesting. And then Biden becomes president, and away he goes. And there is going to be questions about some of the things he wants to do early into his administration. And one thing I talked about during his run for office, why I wanted no part of what he was talking about in this particular thing, and why I would not vote for him, was immigration.
On the campaign trail, Joe Biden called President Trump's immigration policies an unrelenting assault on American values. Now Biden plans to propose a sweeping bill that would provide an 8-year path to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants, including so-called dreamers, people brought to the country illegally as children and who are subject to deportation under Trump. The bill could be introduced right after Wednesday's inauguration.
I will say this over and over. I have zero problem with the Dreamers having a pathway to citizenship. Outside of that, sorry. I can't do it, won't do it. And this is something that we should, as a country, we should fight absolutely and push against. It doesn't mean we throw people out. It doesn't mean that we don't go about reforming and finding ways for people to come in this country easier. And remember, for all of you out there who are like, oh, America's, there's nobody even close that allows and does what we do when it comes to immigration. About 1 million people a year come here legally. But this kind of stuff, no. I mean, that can't happen. And for several reasons. First, it's insane just to think that you're here, right? Like, remember Reagan and them, that we went through this already. We give you amnesty, it's a one-time thing, and then we're going to fix the border. It was never fixed. Both sides jacked the pooch on that. Both sides screwed up on that. Both sides played a game, and for the last 2+ decades, they've continued to play a game because it's been politically expedient for them to do these kind of things when necessary. And it works out well for them. But it's also sounding alarms and bells for other people to go, oh, well, you know, look, Biden's coming in, Trump's going out. I didn't like what Trump did with the separation. I didn't. Now, remember, Obama did it first, but that was court-ordered. After a certain amount of days, children and them, they couldn't be together. Trump did it immediately. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was the right thing to do. What I did think was the right thing to do, and I have all along, was let's eliminate catch and release. I mean, you cross the border illegally, you should be sent back. I don't know why that's so controversial. And you wait in another country while you apply here. That's the way it should be. It's not controversial, shouldn't be controversial. You're coming here because there's opportunity. You're coming here because of what America can give you. I've never begrudged anybody for it. I'm telling you right now, me, if I was in Guatemala or Honduras or El Salvador and I'm surrounded by violence and poverty, and I know that, hey, I can make my way down there and give my family an opportunity, damn Skippy, I'm going to try it. In saying all of that, at some point in time, though, we have to say, all right, no.
A caravan of migrants clashed with the Guatemalan army and police at the border with Honduras over the weekend. Guatemalan forces firing tear gas and striking migrants with batons on Sunday morning. Thousands of migrants tried to break through a security ring that had been set up, but Guatemalan troops retaliated by detonating a stun bomb to force the group, which included children, back. Some of the migrants, the Guatemalan government says up to 8,000 migrants have entered the country from Honduras since Friday. They're trying to gain access to highways to Mexico and ultimately the U.S. border.
And that's what it is. And the thought process of rewarding people for coming here illegally, and I do not begrudge people for doing that. And I think this is where the right goes wrong, if you will, is you've got to spell out all the reasons of why this is happening. First of all, we are a sovereign nation. There are laws. We are built on laws. And this is a law that people use as the feelings of, oh, these people are just trying to find a better life. I understand that. But there are ways of going about doing anything. And there are ways. And we just kind of skirt it because people like cheap labor. Other people like cheap goods. And in hopes of one day maybe giving people the opportunity to come here and to get enough people here that, you know what, maybe whoever has the opportunity to get people citizenship first may win the biggest prize, which is tons of votes, which I also find to be ridiculous. But you've got to fix what's broken before you can even think about anything else. So now there are people coming here. Joe Biden's like, hey, guys, not yet, kind of thing. No, it can't happen. It just, at some point in time, I've even got, I've got liberal friends like, at some point in time, you have to say, you kind of have to say no. And let's figure out a way that we make things easier. I have zero problems with that. I think most people would like to have a easier, flexible way for people to come here who really aren't interested in marrying us, if you will. We're a booty call. They want to come here. They want to have some fun. We're friends with benefits. Both sides get what they want, if you will. We get some cheap labor. We get some, those kind of things. That's a lot of what a lot of people want. Some people do want to come here. They want the whole thing. They want to put a ring on it. They want to get married. They want all of it. But we need comprehensive reform and a wide sweeping. We're going to give 11 million people the opportunity to become citizens. I can't buy into that. And when he said it and nobody touched on it because everybody was so Trump derangement syndrome that everything he said, it just kind of went out of his mouth on stage that night during the debate. And I was like, sweet mother of God, are you kidding me? That's a huge no. That's an absolute no. 100%.
Our message is we're not criminals. We're coming over here because we want to work. We need a job. We need better, a better life. That's why we're here.
Do you understand that President Trump is going to use the pictures of thousands of people surging to the gates against you? He's going to point that to people and say, this is scary.
He's the president of the United States, and with all due respect, we are not criminals.
Donald Trump is un anticristo.
Donald Trump is the Antichrist, this man says. If he doesn't repent, he's going to hell. We are not criminals. We are workers, fighters.
No, I don't think Donald Trump's the Antichrist, nor do I think he's Christ. I think he's a human being. But I also think he understands that there's things that and this was something that Trump took on that I was all for. And not because I think those people are criminals. No. This is, the whole everybody here, this criminal race, that once again, that was something that took life of its own and was never based in, he said some, and then it was, it's everybody. But here's the reality of it. We can't have that. My grandfather came from Mexico. He was an immigrant. He did it the right way. It took him a long time. He was as about anti-illegal immigration as you could find. My uncle and I joke about it all the time. It's about having a sovereign border and doing it right and coming up with common sense immigration reform that will not be perfect for everybody, but will be a damn sight better than what we have now, which is essentially we're going to try to get everybody here legal and give them a pathway to citizenship, and the other side's like, we want to throw everybody out. So the reality is neither of those should happen. The dreamers should have a pathway to citizenship. We should have temporary visas that allow us to allow people to come here, work temporarily, and go home. Seasonal, maybe on contracts for companies for 6 months or a year, whatever it is, because they're not interested in being American. They're interested in working. But before any of that can happen, you have to fix that. We're trying to get the passenger log sorted out on who's a stowaway on a ship that's sinking, and then as soon as we figure that out, then we'll fix the sieve and the leaks. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And these are the things that we need to stand up for and fight against. These are them. Along the way, there'll be some other stuff that I'm not a big fan of with Biden. But he's not president yet. But hearing things like this, I'm telling you right now, this kind of stuff, this is nuts. This cannot happen. And the fact that nobody really broached the subject and Trump missed the opportunity to talk about that in a real meaningful way because he was so focused on a lot of other things. And I get the coronavirus, but he built his entire platform when he first started running, which was on that damn wall in immigration reform, and he got some of it. Some of it he whiffed on. He did. Not going to lie. But some of that stuff caused a lot of people to not make that trek because they're like, no, they're just going to keep us in Mexico. They're just going to be homeless in Mexico rather than at least have something in their homeland. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. Wounded Paw Project, amazing organization. Helping animals, our veterans, and our first responders. So what do? They recognize, started by vets, how hard it is. They come home from war. They come home from deployment. Some of them have been injured. Some of them are struggling with PTSD. 20-plus veterans a day on average are committing suicide. Also, with all the things our first responders are going through and everything you see out there, there's so much struggle with that. So what happens? Well, they rescue animals that be euthanized, train them to be service dogs for veterans, first responders, and their families. And the work they do is amazing. But it's tough. and it's not cheap, and they need your help. Now, a great tax-deductible gift of a vehicle would be phenomenal. You got an extra vehicle sitting there. I wasn't going to do anything. Maybe donate it or what? Donate it here. See the work they do. It is incredible. Great tax-deductible gift. You can also go to smile.amazon.com, set your supporting group up for that. But it truly is amazing work, and and all the donations and the monies will be used to protect, advocate, train these shelter dogs to become service dogs for veterans, first responders, and their family. See all the work they're doing and how you can help by going to woundedpawproject.org. woundedpawproject.org. See the work, see the things that they're doing, the animals they're working with, and the veterans and the first responders. It is amazing. woundedpawproject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
If I should have the honor of being confirmed, I will do everything I can to ensure that the tragic loss of life, the assault on law enforcement, the desecration of the building that stands as one of the three pillars of our democracy, the terror that you felt, your colleagues, staff, and everyone present will not happen again.
Alejandro Mayorkas, DHS, Capitol Siege, talking about what took place, his experience. They're going to try to dig down deep to find out what's going on in what took place on that day, what happened on that day, what went down on that day. Were there people that were involved in an inside way? And it's very interesting to see, because I have a feeling we're going to find some stuff out that's going to make people feel, well, quite frankly, uncomfortable.
You led efforts to protect the homeland from both foreign and domestic terrorism, strengthening our nation's cybersecurity and increased cooperation between the federal government and local law enforcement agencies. And your role as the Deputy Secretary gives you very unique qualifications to take the reins of this extensive agency.
He has a unique viewpoint, that's for sure, and a unique part in this, Mayorkas. But as they break this thing down and they search deep, and the question remains, what happens, just out of curiosity, is if somebody on the inside participated in some way, shape, or form, whether it be law enforcement. And the participation doesn't have to be we opened the floodgates for them. It could be we ignored them. We showed them in some ways where to go. You've got one group of officers who look like they're taking selfies, and one's putting on a MAGA hat, and you got another group who's like they look like they're getting, it's a siege. They're being besieged upon by people. It's weird. It is. So I think there's some fair questions to be asked. But like everything else, here's what has to happen. It has to play itself out. Are there questions being asked about the Gosars of the world and a few others? Yes. Are they real or not? Well, I don't know. That's what it's called, an investigation. Investigation takes time. An investigation takes some time. Were there people on the inside that potentially were a part of this? They're going to see. They're going to look. They're going to go back through a lot of things. And also what you're going to find is more and more of these people get arrested that participated that day. And I'm not talking about the people who are like, we're just following people in. We didn't know. I'm talking about the real people. They're going to start looking at serious time. And as we all know, as I watch, I watch this guy named Michael Francesi. If you guys have no idea, he's one of the most powerful mobsters, probably the wealthiest mobster of all time. And he's a big Christian now, but he has a YouTube channel. And he talks about, when you start looking at 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years, you'd be surprised how fast cooperation comes. And people break oaths. I'm just saying. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. I'm telling you guys right now, tomorrow's going to be an interesting day, but I think it's going to be quiet, kind of sterile, definitely a different kind of inauguration. Trump's last night as president. Well, here we go. On to the next, but it will not be the last. You guys have a blessed day. It's Tuesday. Eat some tacos. Night, Jack.
This is The Chad Benson Show.